terms of the context of Pakistan, we really need to see where we're taking our students. Any education system should really be connected with the socio-economic realities of that particular country. Sweden has a population of around, 10 million people?
That's it.
That's it. Lahore in itself is around 12 to 13 people.
So all the parents come?
The children. For the preschool children, there's a great grand iftar. We set
So
up
they
the
come
iftar.
at iftar time?
नहीं, but छोटे बच्चे, preschool.
Assalamu alaikum everybody and welcome back to Podcast with Ammi. Today we have another very special guest. We have Kamil, who is the principal and CEO of Nordic. Nordic is this fantastic school I have visited multiple times, and it's based on Swedish principles of education. Jo I think jo bhi education ko padhta hai, we all kind of aspire to the Swedish system, and it always fascinates me as such a fantastic system. So let's talk to Kamil more about this system and how he's implementing it. Hi, Kamil.
Hi, Ayesha.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me, Nordic, and I've been there many times, is based on a Swedish education, like principles. What is the Swedish education system for those who don't know about it?
So for Nordic, we've got this one school here in Pakistan and we've got 12 schools in Sweden. Now, as far as the pedagogical approach is concerned, that is Swedish. It is research based, and where the sort of practices that we're implementing, they're a very good mixture of progressive learning and traditional learning as well. So in terms of the pedagogical approach, we're adopting the Swedish practices. But in terms of the curriculum that we have, we have a UK-based curriculum. Okay. And because we're leading to the O-levels examination, so ultimately the learning targets that we're taking in the early years and in the primary years as well are consistent, with the O-levels.
Right.
So hence, it's a very good mix and it's a hybrid curriculum that we're following.
So जो Nordic system है per se, from what I know, in Sweden till the age of 7, the concept of formal education नहीं है. जबकि for people in Lahore, that is completely mind-boggling, because हमारे बच्चे at the age of 5 sit for the HSN exam, which is obviously a written exam, which means that at the age of 3 they need to be writing. Like my son Alian, and I hate doing this to him, but it is. If he wants to go to HSN or कोई option नहीं है. At the age of 3, literally, he's like writing B, C, and Alif, B, and forming letters, which he shouldn't have to, but that's so. In the Swedish approach, the lack of formal training, a formal education till age 7, does that harm the kids? Are the kids behind in any way?
So what happens is that, as I said, any education system should really be connected with the socio-economic realities of that particular country. The education system of Sweden is very well suited to the social and economic realities of Sweden. Sweden has a population of around, 10 million people?
That's it.
That's it. Lahore in itself is around 12 to 13 million people.
Yes, we're bigger than Sweden.
Yeah. So imagine the sort of comparison that we're making here, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of the context of Pakistan, we really need to see where we're taking our students. So we're starting off early. We've got the social reality is that it is a traditional system at the end of the day. And we are leading to a traditional system as well in the future too. Yeah. So it's very good. I wouldn't say, or I wouldn't recommend that, you go toward the traditional system, but I'd say you need to have a good balance, because both a progressive form of education and a traditional form of education have their merits and have their demerits. But you need to create a good balance.
So at Nordic, you've merged them. So you're not too experimental, you're not too old-fashioned.
So at Nordic, our philosophy is very clear. It's basically work hard, be kind. So when we say work hard, we talk about the academic rigor and aspect of things. If you're sending your child to school, you are expecting your child to learn something as well, right? So that's where the academic rigor part comes in. But it's a very good balance. It's a good balance between project-based learning, experiential learning, and traditional methods of learning, right? Instructional learning. So we're trying to create a good balance there. So that's the academic rigor part. The second part is creating a safe space for the child, which is being kind. We're trying to create an inclusive community of parents, of teachers, and of students. And kindness is what is governing the interactions between this community. So all of the value that we're providing, we're trying to provide it, to the students. We're trying to provide it to the parents. We're trying to include the parents in the learning journey of the children as well. And that, I think, is something which is working out really well for Nordic.
Great. So when you began Nordic, how many years ago is it now?
Yeah, this was it was around 8 years ago.
8 years ago. So
Yeah.
you must have seen a gap in the market, or you must have felt that Nordic can contribute something that, because literally, like, I think you turn a corner, there's a private school in Lahore. Like, it is the business. A lot of people are turning to it because of the numbers, but it's literally the business to be in. Yeah, so you see a school, or now you've started seeing coffee shops at every corner. I think we have the herd mentality. Now, whatever's working, just follow it. What did you feel was missing in the market in terms of private school education?
I think the thing that we really focus on, this conversation on values, was something which is really missing. Like, we talk a lot about kindness.
Yeah.
We talk
You do at Nordic,
Yeah,
which is not very common at other schools.
Yes. So we talk a lot about kindness and what it looks like in terms of leadership. We talk a lot about kindness what it looks like in terms of the pedagogical approach that the teacher adopts in the classroom. Right. We talk a lot about kindness being a value that the children should have to really not just survive in a society but thrive in a society, because जिस society में हम रह रहे हैं वहाँ पे values के कुछ इतने अच्छे हालात नहीं हैं. So somebody needs to start that conversation. And the core purpose of education, if education has any purpose, is to prepare the children for life. And kindness is one value and one skill which goes a long way in life. So we're starting that conversation in the school. And it's working out so well, to a point where literally parents come in and they say that, oh, our children are teaching us to be kind.
Wow.
That's
amazing.
Yeah, they're inspiring us. So they're telling us not to sort of, to take care of other people, to not be angry, to add value to other people's lives. So, if that's the conversation that's happening in the school where the children are spending the bulk of their time, so they're taking on this conversation back home as well.
Right. And Kamil, so since Nordic was a new school, and now, there's a lot of talk about how IB is a much better system and how the O and A levels might be, I don't think it's extinct, but people feel that it might become redundant soon. And there's also the high school system. And then these are, I think, the main three systems. What prompted you to choose the O and A level and not, let's say, the IB or not the high school?
So basically, with reference to the curriculum, right, it doesn't matter whether it's a progressive curriculum or it's a traditional curriculum. It has to be a good curriculum. A good curriculum is a curriculum that's diverse, right? You can implement it in different ways. For example, we are in the preschool and in the primary years, we're following the UK guidelines. We've got a curriculum in the early years called the International Early Years Curriculum, which is coming from an organization called Fieldwork Education. And in the primary years...
So it's not like a O-level Cambridge. It's not a Cambridge curriculum.
So it's not a Cambridge curriculum. The Cambridge curriculum is basically happening in the middle years and in the O-levels.
Right.
It is a curriculum which is activity-based, which is project-based, primarily theme-based, but
which is similar to the IB, because IB is also project-based.
Yes, but the difference is that, it is using the learning goals of the UK curriculum. So ultimately, the transition makes much more sense because you're moving from
one UK curriculum
one
to another.
learning goals-based curriculum to a UK-based learning goals curriculum as well. So the transition becomes easier. The children are used to it. It's just that the pedagogical approach is different. The way you're teaching is different. It is, it is taught in units. It's basically taught in themes. For example, if there's a theme called Bake It. So Bake It is going to be all about bread making. So in science, we're going to study the science of bread making. So literally, we'll have ovens in the classroom and the children will be making bread and baking bread, and they'll be seeing at what temperature is the bread baking.
Yeah.
Right? In maths, they'll be exploring the consumption of bread in different parts of the world.
Yeah, or the ingredients.
Or the ingredients that are going in. And what are the consumption, what are the percentages. So, it's basically, the unit basically governs. So that sets the theme, right? And then, the knowledge part comes in. So it's a great combination of both the knowledge aspect of things, the subject knowledge, and the skills aspect of things.
Okay, that's fantastic. So, Kamil, when you introduced all these ideas like 8 years ago, did you find that a lot of people didn't really understand some of these principles, or they were like, "Acha, hum tarbiyat to ghar pe kar denge, hum kindness to ghar pe kar denge, hame bataएं कि how will you get our child to top O levels, or how will you get our child to get A's?" Because I personally feel, and I talk to educationists and parents all the time, that as a society, we've really become like a numbers society, a lot more than a values. So for us, literally we judge a child. Acha, kitte A stars aaye, kitte A's aaye. I literally know of like somebody was telling me that a Rishta auntie asked the guy कि अच्छा अपने वो पता नहीं mark sheet भेजो या transcript भेजो because they wanted to make sure कि अच्छा मतलब अक्लमंद है. I was like, wow. So we really like that's kind of how we're judging. And it is true that the world also judges you on your grades, but that seems to be the only thing we're bothered about. So when you talk about, values, when you talk about the pedagogy, and when you talk about all this, did you find that these concepts were harder initially for parents to embrace, or were you able to find like-minded parents right away?
I think we've been very lucky in terms of having a community which is like-minded, which values sort of education and the impact that education should have. So in that way, naturally, parents who care, they bring their children to a more safe and a personalized environment. But at the same time, I think it is really the responsibility of the school to include the parents in the learning journey of the children as well. So we did have awareness sessions telling the parents, yes, grades are important. Yes, we will be aiming for the top grades as well. But at the same time, it can be done in a different way. The obsession that you have for the grades, if somehow you can have an obsession for the process, that becomes
a
lot more effective.
Yeah.
That is a way in which you can really prioritize well-being as well. So when you're prioritizing the process, what are you looking at? You're really trying to understand the why behind things. Why do we want these grades in the first place? If the child understands that. Because grades are important. These conversations that we're sitting in the drawing rooms and saying, oh, like my school mein itna nalaik tha, dekho maine itna kuch kar liya hai.
It's not a good conversation.
It's not a good conversation to have.
No,
it's
I
not.
agree. And it really affects children.
Yeah.
Imagine yesterday my son and my husband and I are very grade oriented. We ourselves were high achievers. Said to me, oh, Mama, I know people who became successful and didn't go to college. And I was like, Kayan, that happened 40 years ago. It's not happening today. It's really not, because the skills you need to become successful today, you can't get them without an education.
And if nothing else, to an employer, if I see myself as an employer, I'm really looking, when I look at the grades, I'm not looking at just the academic knowledge of that particular person in that particular subject. I'm really looking at the work ethic. I'm looking at the fact that the competitiveness, the discipline, the work ethic. Does that particular individual have that work ethic to perform in a challenging environment? Can he take pressure? And good grades do sort of tell that. They tell that the person does have the ability to understand an environment in a particular way and perform to the highest level and be competitive. So grades are important. The only problem is that if we can shift our approach to an outcome-driven approach to a process-driven approach, that is what is needed. Yeah. If we really explain our children why these grades are important, if we have this conversation that, this is going to show to everyone, and more important to yourself, on how hard work pays off, on why hard work is important. And if we tell them how to go about that journey, there's one way of rote learning. You take the textbook and just simply abrata laga lo uska. But there's one way of visualization as well. The brain is a creative machine, right? So one way to go about it is, we take the textbook and we say, all right, we just go it and read out. Let's take Islamiyat, for example.
Yeah.
So हम इस्लामियत का देखते हैं, हम कहते हैं जी ग़ज़वा बदर जो है हम उसका रट्टा लगा देते हैं. अब वो एग्जाम में वो सवाल आता है. There's a big possibility कि हम blank हो जाएं, हमें याद नहीं रहेगा. But if really going over and understanding what really happened, why did it happen, and using the brain, which is a creative machine, to create images and pictures.
And you'll never forget it.
You'll never forget it. Because it's your brain thinks in pictures and in videos.
Yes.
So you're creating that picture. Oh, the kuffar are coming in from the other end. They're bigger in number. The Musliman are here. They're smaller in number.
Yeah.
Oh, you're getting sort of aid from the top. Angels are coming in from the top to help. So you'll never forget that. So any question that comes in, this picture and this video is going to keep playing in your head. And all you have to do is just see that picture and write it down.
Yeah.
But if given you have the skill of writing as well, you worked hard to develop that skill of writing.
Absolutely.
So it's a combination of both knowledge, skill, and your ability to visualize stuff.
Yeah.
So the how is way more important than the outcome. The outcome follows.
Yeah, I agree completely. So, Kamil, one of the issues that is really becoming rampant now, especially in schools of Lahore, is this issue of bullying. Like, I've spoken to parents who've had to change schools because, and it's बहुत common hai. Like, I think it's really coming up as one of the biggest reasons parents are forced to change schools, especially of girls, is because, oh, they were really bullied, oh, they were badly bullied, oh, we couldn't address the bullying. And then and then with boys, I've seen like physical hurt taking place, and like especially in big boys' school, right? Like stitches lag rahe hain, that kid was pushed, he broke his tooth. I mean, it's becoming like, I don't know, I really don't remember it being this bad like 5 years ago, but now it seems to be like up there, and the bullying seems to be getting more and more vicious. Like my own daughter, like you remember we did a full anti-bullying. Like there were slurs um, scribbled in the bathroom, and this is like what, a girl who's 10 who did that, or 11. So what is going on? Like, and are you facing this issue?
You know, every society faces the issue. And because the school is in that society, the school does face that issue as well. But the more important aspect is, what is the school doing about it? There are reactive measures and then there are proactive measures. So in order to have a bullying policy, it needs to have both. A reactive one, where if an incident has occurred, right, you're doing something about it, right? You're trying to understand what happened, right? And when you are trying to understand what happened, you have to pay very close attention to the fact that on both the sides, there are children. दूसरी side पे कोई criminal नहीं है.
Yeah.
So you need to really understand what's happening on the other side as well. So there's a person who's being bullied, and there's a person who's bullied. And the person who's being bullied is the person who's being bullied. He's not a victim. अगर हम victim mentality कर देंगे तो वो बच्चा सारी जिंदगी victim ही रहेगा. So we really need to understand what's happening in both the sides. We really need to understand and talk to these children on what made them do what they are doing, right?
Yeah.
And then we need to let them know that they need to report any such instance if it happens to the authorities as well.
Yeah.
And when they report the incident to the authorities need to take corrective action. They can't just ignore it, because this is a serious issue, right? So the children need to be confident that if something happens, we are safe, we are secure. When we report it, corrective action will be taken. And preferably, the parents need to encourage the children to go and talk to the authorities about it. That this is what's happening, this is how it's affecting us, and if we would really appreciate if you can do something about it. And then the school should really do something about it. And then, there's a proactive approach as well. The proactive approach is what I was talking about. It's kindness.
Yeah.
If you have a culture of kindness, if you have a culture where people know that this is the norm, you have to take care of the other person without expecting anything in return. So naturally, you're proactively reducing the number of cases. Kindness as a value is reducing the number of cases which are happening in the school with respect to bullying. But the question is, do the authorities really understand what kindness is, what it looks like? Like, have they ever practiced it? Because children will never listen to you. They'll never listen to you. But they'll always remember who you are. You can teach them, it will give them information, right?
Yeah.
But who you are and what you embody is going to inspire them. And what will inspire them will perhaps has the possibility of changing them and their behaviors. So we need to embody these values ourselves in order to have a proactive approach. So that is basically the concern.
Yeah, makes sense. But what do you think is the reason that bullying seems to be like taking over? Is it something that parents are doing wrong? Is it a manifestation of like frustration with something? Like, what, I mean, even so Sharan just like started a big school, right? So even in grade 2, like grade 2 mein who does bullying? But even in grade 2, there have been so many instances.
It's about what the children are really observing around them. So if you have a conversation with them, they will tell you. I was having a conversation with one of the childs, and I said, so what's the thing? Like, which group are you associated with? And he's like, I'm a part of the mafia group. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, so kya karte ho mafia group mein? It's like,
He actually said.
Yeah. If you create a safe space for the children, they do talk to you. Okay. So he said, I'm a part of the mafia group. I'm like, why? He said, it's cool. It's cool. Now, the question is, what's the definition of cool? So I asked him, how is it cool? And he said, because you get to dominate people. They respect you. I'm like, all right, so ultimate objective kya hai? And he said, world domination. So it wasn't even school domination, it was world domination. So imagine, like, and then I asked the child, like, do you want to know something better, something more cool, or do you want me to issue you a warning letter right away? And he's like, I would like to learn something that's better. I'm like, all right, so let me tell you of something that's better, something that's more cool. There's a Yoruba community in Africa in which there's a word called Itutu. So Itutu refers to a person who is non-reactive. So if anything happens, if the bus is not coming in on time, a person of Itutu is not going to react. It's just going to give a sigh of relief and is going to look at other opportunities. So a person of Itutu is always responsive. And that becomes cool in that society, right? In our society, being reactive and being an angry young man is cool,
Yeah.
right? This is what the children are seeing in the society. And they want to be cool. So if they don't know of anything better, if nobody tells them of that community, if nobody shows them what kindness looks like, and the fact that kindness actually works, if nobody has a conversation with them, makes them sit on the table and say, how are you feeling? Like, what made you do the things that you're doing? Then how would they know what kindness looks like?
Yeah.
What are we expecting out of them? So you need to embody these values yourself and then expect things from the children.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I say that leadership matters, like really matters. But are you a leader or are you an authority? That's the question at the end of the day. So the mafia group is just a matter of not knowing.
Yeah. What's better?
Yeah, what's better? And we're taking it for granted. क्योंकि बच्चों को पता होना चाहिए यार.
Yeah.
But
Makes sense.
that's not the case.
So, Kamil, as a principal, and this is the first time you've been a principal, right, of Nordic, because initially you were CEO and then
Yeah.
you became principal. So, as a principal, how do you figure out a balance? Like, I've seen principals who like literally become the best friends of children, and I personally, because I think I come from the convent, that's not an approach that I even like or understand, because I believe that being a principal or being a teacher, you don't need to become their best friend and sit and have McDonald's with them. Like, that's just obviously my personal opinion. And I've also seen principals who, like, I remember my son Ahil telling me, and Michael Thompson was a great principal, there's no question. But Ahil told me that, Mama, in all my years at HSN, I barely saw him because his approach was different. He was working more on like big ideas and big buildings and not really developing connections with the children. And then obviously you have like the convent approach where the principal shows up to just like give orders. So how do you figure out in this like rapidly changing world where our children are facing, AI questions and gender identity questions and even questions about culture and religion, which we all thought that Pakistan mein to ye masla nahi hoga since we are the Islamic Republic, but obviously that's wrong. So how do you figure out what is an effective way to be an effective principal?
More than being a principal, I think it's very important to be a good human. That is what really allows you to connect with children, right? For example, like half of the population we have at the school is preschool children. So we're talking about children who are 3 to 5 years of age.
Right.
Would they really care about the fact that I'm the principal of the school or the CEO? It doesn't matter.
Probably wouldn't even hit them.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't matter to them.
Yeah.
The only thing that matters to them is that whenever they look at that person, they feel safe. So no matter how bad my day is going, no matter what is going, I make it a point that when I look at them, I have a smile on my face. So I'm greeting them with a smile. So that is what matters. And then the thing about you being a friend and sort of, you have to create a right balance. You have to be firm as well. And it really depends on how your interactions really depend on the values that you're embodying yourself as well.
Yeah.
You should not be driven by ego. Oh, I'm the principal of the school, no matter how dare this child says this to me, right? You really try and understand what the child is saying in the first place. Be a very good listener. If you listen, the children are going to tell you ways on how to be a good principal for them because आप उनके leader हैं. ये leadership position जो है ये उनकी वजह से है.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? तो ये एक रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है जो वो दे रहे हैं, तो वही आपको बताते हैं कि सही तरीका क्या है.
Yeah.
और वो बहुत, if you have empathy, if you're a good listener, it's easy. कल मैं एक सेशन में बैठा हुआ था और I was talking to the O-levels class that, like, ways on how you can respond to the examinations, ways on how you can have the right approach for the O-levels examination, right? And I asked them that, like, I don't want you guys to agree with me. I want you to challenge me as well. So one of the children, and I said that, sky's the limit for you guys. And he raised his hand. I was like, yeah. And he said, why can't the moon be the limit? And I was like, I never thought about that. Like, why can't moon be the limit? Technically, moon to sky से आगे है ना.
Yeah.
So मैंने कहा यार अच्छी.
पता नहीं, sky moon से आगे. I don't
हाँ,
know.
तो मैंने कहा अच्छी बात है. But the way I took it, if I would have been the principal, I was like, how dare he ask this question? He's trying to make fun of me. No, he was not trying to make fun of me. I genuinely thought that this guy is curious and he's asking me this question, that why can't we step out from the realms of what we know, the sky, to something that we don't know, to something that's unknown? Why can't we really push our potential, but push ourselves to that potential? Because मैं उनको कह रहा था कि यार we are looking at A stars for you guys. So I said, if you're giving me that analogy, if you're telling me that, we should rather look at the moon than looking at the sky, then you're probably aiming for a distinction, right?
Yeah.
Very good. Go for the moon.
Yeah.
You'll probably end up in the stars, right?
Yeah.
But very good. Why not? Go for a distinction.
Yeah.
But, एक हो सकता है उसने शरारत करने की कोशिश की. वो डॉक्टर आरफा कहती हैं जो शरारत होती है वो जहानत की अलामत होती है.
Yeah, that's
Right?
true.
तो ये तो जहानत की अलामत है. Why should we penalize our children for that? Just because, I'm the principal of the school?
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if there's a child, and if I'm having a conversation with him, and if he's making faces, or if somebody at the back who's making faces, right, and he's not serious, he's not looking at me, he's not respecting my time, I will sort of tell them that this is not how it works.
Yeah.
So I will ask the child to come from the back as well. I'll have both of them stand right in front of me, and I'll tell them that if somebody is giving you their time, you need to respect that.
Yes.
Right? And you cannot behave in this way. Yeah. And this might just be a very good time to realize your mistake and apologize. Yeah. And they will realize their mistakes and apologize.
Yeah.
A real incident once again.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's like walking a tightrope when you're a principal.
Yeah. Understanding your environment. Understanding the fact that it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be, and really understanding that, this generation is way smarter than our generation. It is. These children are very smart. And honestly, in the school that I am, they're very respectful as well. I am surprised by the level of respect that they give. The way they talk, so respectfully. The way they're smiling, the way they're making me feel safe. Imagine. Mm-hmm. So that's amazing. It's a privilege.
Yeah. So, Kamil, one of the criticisms, or one of the things that I think concerns every parent in Pakistan is obviously the teachers. And there's a lot of debate on, okay, why do we not have excellent teachers? And one of the things that often comes up when I talk to government officials is this idea that teachers are unlicensed. And so obviously when there's a license in place, I'm not saying that's the solution, but then some barriers are set to entry, right? Right now, anybody who has time off from her university, or who's taking a semester off, or who's done her bachelor's, just got married and doesn't have much to do, anybody can apply to a school and start teaching. Anybody who speaks decent English can start. But when you have a license in place, you can't just get up and become a doctor, because again, there's a license, or a lawyer, or an engineer. So the lack of license is one thing that seems to be the reason we don't have really high quality teachers. And then also, obviously, I feel teaching in Pakistan is still not highly paid. So that's another reason it doesn't attract. And then So you end up seeing like teachers who've made teaching a profession having to do tuition and after school classes just to make ends meet, which obviously means they can't give their 100% to the school. And then also, I feel the turnover of teachers recently, ever since the political upheaval, has been immense because teachers come from the middle class, and that's the class that's just fleeing the country. So, what do you feel? Do you feel it's fair to say that Pakistan's education system doesn't attract like great teachers, or we're in an era where great teachers are rare and are hard to find?
So the quality of the school is directly proportional with the quality of the teachers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not the buildings, it's
Yeah,
not the swimming pools.
Yeah, it's not
Which
the
is really what we all seem to be spending money on, the optics. But if
Yeah.
you don't have good teachers, I've seen math schools with massive swimming pools and no good swimming teacher. So you have 3 swimming pools, like literally I know schools with 3 swimming pools, 2 swimming pools, and 80% of the population can't swim one stroke.
have you ever wondered why that is? Like, have you ever wondered कि क्यों हो रहा है ऐसे? It's a supply-driven approach. It's basically what's happening is the schools are basically providing to what is being demanded. They should have rather supplied what is the right thing, but वो simply एक demand meet कर रहे हैं. Commercial objectives हैं.
Pool चाहिए हर
हाँ,
school.
because वो parents
चाहे बच्चे, literally it's sad. I think schools that have pools should conduct a survey to see how many of their students know how to swim.
because Aisha देखें जब भी parents आते हैं ना for admissions, the pool is something that they're demanding.
Really? Do you
Yeah.
have a pool at Nordic?
We don't.
You don't.
हाँ.
But
I mean,
parents are
ठीक है वो.
demanding it.
हाँ, but मैं को कहता हूँ आप क्लब जाएं. अच्छा टाइम स्पेंड करें अपने बच्चों के साथ. It will improve your relationship with the children as well. But this is not a 5-star club. I know it could have added with respect to the services we're offering, but then again, I don't think it's a necessity. So we need to have the right conversation in the schools as well. In the school, the conversation is about the children. It's not a social conversation of who is coming to the school and if the school is providing a 5-star environment. हम हर चीज़ को ना एक social conversation बना देते हैं. It's not. It's a conversation about the child. Right, left, center. It should be the child. और यही conversation होनी चाहिए स्कूल में.
Yeah.
And with respect to the teachers जो आप बात कर रही थी, now idealistically, naturally, they should be trained and they should have the degrees and the programs and the certifications to support their training as well. So I completely understand that. But let's look at the environment that we operate in. The teachers, the environment that they are coming in from, it is an extremely, extremely challenging social environment in itself.
Yeah.
बड़ी मुश्किल से उनकी families उन्हें allow करती हैं to work.
Even now, that's an issue.
Even now, that's a big, big issue. And majority of the teachers that are leaving is again mostly due to the social factors. घर वाले, allow नहीं कर रहे, या कुछ husband allow नहीं कर रहा, कुछ scenario हो गया. So I think we really need to respect the teachers for the champions that they are, for the fact that they're even coming to the school and they have a smile on their face. मुझे तो ये लगता है कि उनका स्कूल में सिर्फ आना भी
It's like a
स्टेप
jihad.
इन करना, वो ऑलरेडी जीत चुकी हैं.
Wow.
I genuinely think that they won already.
So the majority of them, it's not that easy.
It's
You
not
just
easy.
Get dressed and come to school.
It's not easy at all. They have to fulfill all their obligations at the school, and a school environment is not an easy environment. It is a very challenging environment. You've got the lesson plans, you've got the classes, you've got the admin duties as well. There's a lot happening in the school. The schools are brilliantly busy places. So they're already doing a lot. Imagine, as a parent, it is difficult for anybody to manage 2-3 children.
Yeah.
They're managing 20-25 children. And that takes a lot out of them.
Yeah.
And in that way, in that situation, अगर हम उन्हें criticize मज़ीद करना शुरू कर दें, that's not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So we really need to nurture them. We really need to first appreciate them for the work that they're doing. The authorities need to do that. The parents need to do that as well.
Yeah.
That's what the community is about. It's about respect. Somehow in this whole thing, we've lost that element of respect,
Yeah.
right? Especially for the teachers. and the school administrators को mafia कहना या teachers को ऐसा करना, that's not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Right? They're already coming in from extremely challenging social context. Right? So we need to respect that and then sort of move forward. गलतियां हर एक से होती हैं. मैं किसी को defend नहीं कर रहा. But at the same time, we're not a perfect school. They're not perfect human beings. We don't have a perfect life.
Yeah.
Right? But we need to create an environment which is safe for everyone, for the teachers, for the students, for the parents, for the admin staff. And that is what a school should stand for.
Yeah.
Right? And then, ठीक है, अगर government level पे नहीं हो रहा, then the school needs to take that responsibility of training their teachers as well.
Yeah.
We do trainings in school as well on, the lesson plans and classroom management and setting high expectations, how to incorporate kindness in the pedagogical approach. So, school की भी तो कोई responsibility है ना
Yeah.
on training.
Yeah.
या हम government को blame करते हैं हर चीज़ पे कि ये government ने करना है, government ने करना है. I understand. But what can we do given the situation that we have? And we can do a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. But you were just talking about respect. Do you feel that the culture of parents now seems to be, I mean, not like if you again compare it to what was happening pehle, there was, a level of decorum and respect. Now it seems like because obviously parents are paying schools, and schools are now charging hefty amounts given inflation and given bills and given load shedding. I'm not complaining of why the schools are charging this, because I think that's a given considering the price of doing business in Pakistan. But it does seem that because we're paying, we feel entitled to these complaints and we feel entitled to a certain level of service. And I've heard the most absurd complaints like, why was the AC set at this and not set at this, an email to the school or a complaint to the school? Why did the teacher not give our child a bigger role in the play? Which to me was really shocking, because I remember at the convent they would have plays every year, and I don't even think my mom knew the part I had till she would come to see the play. And even if she wanted to go complain, I don't think anybody would have even given her the time of day कि yes, आप आए हैं बैठ के बात करते हैं कि आपकी बेटी को बड़ा role नहीं मिला, and how does she psychologically feel, and how did we, literally that was never entertained. But this is actually happening कि AC इस level पे क्यों नहीं था, या heater उन्होंने इस वक्त क्यों नहीं set किया, या why are they insisting कि अभी तक हमारे बच्चे coats पहने, very little things that you yaar, big deal, move on. But a lot of this, and I feel because it's a plethora of complaints, actual complaints, जो actual issues हैं वो तो get sidelined. And I actually feel like one principal told me that she got 120 emails on one particular day. And I was like, the poor woman is probably, that's all she did that day. If you get 120 emails, आप और क्या काम करोगे? आप उन्हीं को ही जवाब दोगे. So, is this happening? Do you face a lot of it about this entitlement of parents, and then complaints that maybe should not even be complaints, and the lack of tolerance?
The parents live in a society. What do you think about our society? It has no tolerance, right? We can't tolerate other people, opinions which are different than ours, right? Something that has happened which we did not expect to happen.
Yeah.
So the parents are just doing what the society is doing.
But why has our society become like this? This is not the story of every society. A lot of people say that, Islam, agar asal mein practice dekhna hai, to Goro mein dekho. Because you see, immense levels of empathy there, immense levels of consideration for the neighbor. You do see those things in practice. So it's not as if the entire human race has suddenly degraded. Why is it happening so much here? I think, Kyle, there was this video that went viral. This is Ramzan, the month in which I think we all try and be our best. And this man beat up two women, literally beat them up on the road because of a parking dispute.
Why is it happening? Again, I'll refer it back to the absence of values and the absence of having that conversation on values. We're probably taking it for granted that people do understand what kindness is and what it looks like, right? We are not able to identify anger for what it is. We start taking pride in being angry, right? Oh, this is an angry man. Oh, मैंने उसको इस तरह करके मारा. Oh, ये हो गया. Oh, मैंने ये कर दिया. right? We've started taking pride in that. Positivity is not louder. There is a lot of positive work that's happening as well. अगर मैं आपको parents का मैं कहूँ जी बहुत ये ऐसा करके है, that's not true. So if I talk about my school, for example, right, it will be a disservice to say that all of the parents are complaining. That's not the case, right? There are a few cases, just like in every society, there are people who have a habit of complaining and being intolerant, but the majority of the parents and the parent body is very respectful. They really appreciate the efforts of the educators. And that is what is reflecting in their children as well. If the parents are respectful, the children are going to see that. So they will be respectful as well. So that is going to develop a strong and a safe community. But at the same time, for the ones who are complaining, they need to perhaps understand as well that there are two things that we need to work on with respect to the development of our children. The first is developing their confidence, raising confident children. And how to develop confident children? So competence develops confidence.
I read this somewhere. Competence develops. It's my favorite quote.
Yeah. If you are skilled at something, if you worked hard at it, you will be confident. फिर मैटर नहीं करेगा कि मैंने सूट अच्छा पहना हुआ या मेरे हेयर स्टाइल अच्छा जा रहा है, वो उस पर ऐड करेगा, उसको कॉम्प्लीमेंट करेगा. बट अच्छा हेयर स्टाइल और अच्छा सूट जो है वो कॉन्फिडेंस में उस तरह डायरेक्टली ऐड नहीं करता, आपकी स्किल करती है. सो दे नीड टू बी स्किल्ड एट दैट पर्टिकुलर थिंग and activity that they are involved in.
So does this translate into good students are they naturally more confident?
They are confident if they know the skill, if they know how to attempt the examination, if they've done their hard work, if they prepared for it, right? They're naturally more confident. But the second part is where a lot of the parents confuse confidence with. And the most important part is the self-esteem part. So you need to develop and raise confident children and children with a high level of self-esteem. Now, what is self-esteem? Self-esteem is the image of yourself that you have in your mind. Now, what is affecting self-esteem? Your self-talk. What are you saying to yourself? Oh, नहीं यार मैं नहीं कर सकता. I can't do this. Right? तो आप कभी भी नहीं कर सकेंगे. But if you tell yourself, no, I'm powerful, I'm strong, I'm worthy, I belong, I can do this, you'll do this. So self-esteem, your self-talk determines that. And then solving your own problems, that develops your self-esteem as well. Problems will be everywhere.
Yeah.
But instead of the parents complaining about it, why don't the students complain about it? I would love to hear these problems from the students coming up and saying, oh, sir, we'd appreciate if the air conditioner is turned on at a certain temperature, right? Or we'd appreciate if we can have this facility as well in the school, right? So let them solve their own problems. When they're coming in to discuss these problems, tell them to go and talk to the authorities about it. And the school needs to listen to these students in every situation, in every way. So let them solve their problems and then let the children come out of their comfort zone as well. Give them a challenge. We've become so soft.
Yeah.
We don't like children failing. हम वो स्पोर्ट्स डे करवाते हैं तो उसमें ये भी एक्सपेक्टेशन होती है कि जो 6th पोजीशन वाला है उसको भी मेडल मिले या कोई सर्टिफिकेट मिले. That life does not work like that.
But we don't want our children to fail.
We don't want them to.
We want the medals to hang up.
Absolutely. And if they don't fail, they'll never learn.
Yeah.
Because failure is the best teacher. Success doesn't teach you anything. It just keeps you going. It's an inertia. You keep on going. But if they'll never fail, they'll never learn.
Absolutely.
वो छोटा बच्चा होता है उसको he's growing up and if he's getting up and he's falling down वो चलना सीख रहा है. हम उसको कहें नहीं यार तुम गिर जाओगे, तुम फेल हो रहे हो, तुम ना करो, तुम्हें चलने की जरूरत नहीं है, अटेम्प्ट करने की जरूरत नहीं है. You'll hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Will he ever learn to walk?
No.
He'll never learn to walk. So let them fail.
Yeah.
But at the same time, teach them how to lose gracefully.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's the conversation we need to be having, and that is what is going to build their self-esteem as well.
Yeah.
So both confidence, self-esteem together make a sustainable experience. Confidence in itself कुछ नहीं कर सकता क्योंकि अगर वो confident है, उन्हें पता है और वो एक particular task पे focus करें और उनके self-esteem नहीं है तो वो sustainable नहीं रहेगी task. वो उसको sustain नहीं कर सकेंगे over the months, over the years, over the period of the lifetime. So both need to go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And अगर वो हाई सेल्फ इस्टीम पे है, उनके पास स्किल नहीं है, वो कॉन्फिडेंट नहीं है, तो वो टास्क कर ही नहीं पाएंगे.
Yeah.
वो डिलूजनल हो जाएंगे, वो इग्नोरेंट हो जाएंगे.
Yeah.
So दोनों चीज़ें, I think they're mighty important for the parents to understand, and I keep on emphasizing on that. Even in my the pages, the social media page that I have as well, NSO Principle, I talk so much about that, about these two things there. I show the interactions that I'm having, with the children as well, because the idea of even that page is to just to show the community on what kindness looks like, on how you can interact with the children in a safe environment, on how you can have empathy towards the children.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's working out, in the most beautiful of ways, for me at least.
Great. So, what place do you think religion has in a school? So, obviously, in the US and the UK, you can understand the need for like Islamic schools because their education is secular. But I was interested to see that in the last 20 years in Pakistan, we now have like full chains of Islamic school, which makes you wonder that is there really a need? Does religion not have a space in mainstream schools? Should Islam not be discussed? Like, what space does Islam have in the Islamic Republic of Pakistan schools? And should it have a big space?
So, education in itself needs to be really connected, again, as I said before as well, it needs to be really connected with the socio-economic realities of a particular country. Religion is a big part of the country that we live in, right? The implementation, we can question that, but with the respect to the religious ideology, it is a beautiful ideology if you really understand it. So I think, and I genuinely believe that conversation and relevant activities need to be happening in the school as well, because that is where the inspiration is going to come from. We need to show them the beautiful part of the religion. That part of the religion where Allah Ta'ala कहते हैं कि आप अपने सारे गुनाह पाइल अप भी करते जाओ और वो आसमान तक भी पहुंच जाए और एक दफ़ा तौबा करोगे तो मैं तुम्हारे सारे गुनाह माफ़ कर दूंगा. Right? Showing them that beautiful part as well. And on how religion is about forgiveness. Yes, it's about being responsible for your actions as well. It's about the concept of Jannat and Dozakh as well. But in terms of the ideology and in how it guides our daily lives, God himself is saying that, हाँ गलतियाँ करो, but realize करो कि ये गलती है और उसकी माफ़ी मांगो. तो ये अल्लाह ताला तो हमें खुद लेसन सिखा रहा है. तो ये लेसन स्कूल्स में क्यों नहीं सीखने चाहिए?
100%. But why? If Islam has a place in mainstream schools, then why do we need Islamic schools? And one thing I find very interesting, so almost every school function I go to, we always have the recitation of the Quran, which is great. We generally also have like somebody reading out the translation grade. I don't know any school except the Islamic schools where there is Zohar ki namaz, which I always find very perplexing because most children end up missing their Zohar because of traffic and car pahunchte hue. Zohar ka, especially sardiyon mein hote, Zohar ka time nikal gaya, for whatever reasons, like 2-3 bachchon ko pick karna hai, kuch bhi, generally like Zohar kharab hoti hai. Every school has auditoriums, lawn spaces. No school, literally, except for an Islamic school, does Zohar. And I don't know why, because maybe it's this image that, oh, we're not Islamic. I fail to understand that because I feel we are, like, in the entire population you teach is probably 99% Muslim. And we are in a country which is very clearly Muslim. So what is the harm in allowing Islam inside schools?
There's no harm at all. I think it's...
one more thing. And the entire issue with the single national curriculum, everybody began screaming on one point. Ki Nazira kyun school mein padhaya ja raha hai? Whereas I was like, isn't it more convenient ki you don't need to hire a Qari Saab? Ab gharon mein you don't need a Qari Saab. Agar school Nazira padha raha hai, Quran ki recitation padha raha hai, so it's one thing off the shoulders of parents. Don't hire a Qari Saab. But there was so much hue and cry. Ki nahi. Ye to, they're bringing the madrasas into the school. Jabki literally, I'm not defending the single national curriculum, but in terms of Nazira, all they said was that 20 to 30 minutes a day, the Nazira needs to be inculcated. But it was interpreted as the madrasization of schools.
Now, I think religion should be a part of the conversation because it is so directly related to the social realities of our country. Why is it not happening is perhaps a lot got to do with the fact that the schools have a demand-driven approach. So because a lot of it is not demanded from the parents, so schools are not providing it.
Swimming pools are demanded. Zohar ki namaz is not, so they're like,
They can
jo demand hai wohi karo.
जो demand है वही basically schools provide कर रहे हैं. As
So
unfortunate
should
as
schools
it
not
is.
have their own identities, their own, I don't know, like their own agendas, not driven by parents, but driven by schools?
100%. That is what a school stands for.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm a big fan of the community that we have is exactly that. We have our own identity. You know, you can differentiate our community with respect to the respectful interactions, with respect to kindness. That is what you should be supply driven. You should just do the right thing no matter what and under any circumstances. अब मुझे कहें कि स्कूल में जी हैलोवीन क्यों नहीं होती, राइट?
और हैलोवीन कराएं.
हाँ, कहते हैं मुझे नहीं समझ आती, मैं नहीं करूँगा हैलोवीन, मुझे पॉइंट समझ नहीं आता.
Yeah.
We will have Ramadan में the great grand iftar.
You do that.
Yeah, we do that.
Oh,
we
when do you guys do that?
It's just happening next week.
So all the parents come?
The children, for the preschool children, there's a great grand iftar. We set
So
up
they
the
come
dastafan.
at iftar time?
नहीं, छोटे बच्चे preschool
so
वाले
they
ना.
don't do a
हाँ,
roza.
तो वो हम उनके लिए दस्तरखान बिछाते हैं और हम उन्हें बिठा के बताते हैं कि this is how you do the iftar, this is the benefits of it, and it's like the whole school is sort of celebrating the preschool. So like they get to know about the iftar. In terms of the Hajj, we do this thing that the children decorate particular stations of Hajj. So they really perform that Hajj. They go to
Mina,
every station,
Arafat,
like Mina, Arafat,
Muzdalifah.
Muzdalifah. So they really see and experience what performing Hajj looks like, right? When it's closer to Hajj time. So ये चीजें जरूरी हैं. ये क्यों नहीं हो सकती? होनी चाहिए.
But नमाज क्यों नहीं हो सकती?
नमाज 100% नमाज भी हो सकती है. नमाज क्यों नहीं हो सकती?
तो आपके स्कूल में क्यों नहीं होती?
हमारे स्कूल में उसको करते हैं, इम्प्लीमेंट करते हैं. We would never say no to like.
Yeah, but why is it not done as a jamaat?
Again, as a jamaat, if you say preferably, that should be the case. Why it's not happening is unfortunately the school curriculum and the routine that we have in the school is very rigid. It does not allow us that flexibility to add in something. So once we're designing something, we have to take the whole population into account. So hence वो एक particular चीज़ नहीं होनी चाहिए. I definitely agree with that. If we have the space, if we for example have an extra room, which in our case we don't have, it should definitely be a religious room. It should be a prayer room where they have the liberty to practice and say the prayers.
Yeah. But I do feel, I think I agree with you. The reason, because I guess enough parents are not raising their voice, and the parents who want things like Jamaat and Nazra just take their kids to Islamic schools. So hence our own like non-Islamic schools, but mainstream schools are really treading a very difficult situation where even if they want to they want to instill more Islamic Muslim values, they don't, because that's not the demand.
Yeah, but at the same time, there needs to be there should be a great amount of freedom of choice as well. You can't force namaz on anyone. You can't tell them that
But
you
to
need
not
to
have a
study.
Jamaat in an Islamic school, I find that to be like such a paradox. I mean, I think probably most schools in Dubai, I can't say for Dubai, but like a Jamaat hona is, it's not forcing anybody. Agar aap Jamaat karwa rahe hain, jin bachchon ne padhni hai, wo padhenge. But to not have it
that thing needs to be
is
there.
like something that's always struck me as so bad. Like,
I used to
what
play
is
cricket
going
as well.
on?
So in cricket, we used to make sure that whenever sort of there's azan
चार
happening,
लोग खड़े
कोई
होके
activity
करते
नहीं हो
हैं,
रही. हाँ, and then we were praying as well. The coach is leading and the sort of
रमजान
praying
में
as
भी
well.
नहीं होती. So I do like I also know schools जिनके अंदर मस्जिदें हैं, वहाँ भी जमात नहीं होती.
That's unfortunate.
For students.
Yeah, if
so
you
I
have the
think-
facility, it should
But
be happening.
facility तो कामिल आप भी create कर सकते हैं. Lawn में करा लें.
Depending again, unfortunately, the structure is so rigid that we do have our limitations. As much as I would like to do so many things, we do have our limitations there.
Yeah.
But ideologically, I completely agree with you. I can see where you're coming from. Yeah.
So coming down to another topic that I find interesting in the schools of Lahore specifically. So you know how in the US and the UK, every school has a parent-teacher body. There's a PTA, and I think some people call them the parent associations, or there is some kind of a body of parents who are very closely involved with the administration, down to the fact that the parents arrange events in schools, right? Like I think end of school parties, like there's like a full agenda that the PTA has, and then the PTA does their own fundraising and they implement it. and it's very much like a part of the school structure. And I think the only school in Pakistan that I can think of that has parents actually involved is, I think, LAS, because usme there is a parent body that I think selects the superintendent. खैर वो भी उसके अपने issues हैं, because when you're selecting the superintendent, is he really independent? But that's the only school. Almost every other school tends to not want parental involvement. But most schools in Pakistan, you need an appointment, and I can, for a logistical reason, that makes sense.
Yep.
To meet the principal, you need an appointment to meet the superintendent, and then if you send too many emails, they're ignored. If you have too many suggestions, there's generally a suggestion box. पता नहीं कोई पढ़ता है कि नहीं, बस इधर भेज दें. Stay away. Like there's this notion कि let us do our job, and बस जो parents हैं ना वो बस pick up and drop off पे रहें, या PTM पे आ जाएं. PTM पे भी आपके पास 5 मिनट हैं, बस we want you to show up at the PTM, so we know you're involved, but we only want you for 5 minutes. So there is this approach, okay, we don't want parents to be more than this percentage, and we definitely don't welcome them in like the school administration, in schools. Why? Like पूरी दुनिया में, मतलब even Dubai के schools में, every other country that I can think of, I don't know about India and Bangladesh, parents इतना integral role play कर रहे हैं. तो इधर क्या problem है कि नहीं, आप तो जरा take a step back.
You cannot deny the role of the parents in the learning journey and the achievements of the child. So they need to be involved in the learning journey. Or there are various ways to go about it. It can happen through different events as well, in which you're celebrating the journey and the all the abilities of the child, where the parents come in and they appreciate the child. It needs to be the parent having direct access to the teacher as well, so a platform that connects the parent to the teacher in case they want to discuss anything. And then if it's an administration related issue, the parents need to have a direct link as well, so that they can raise their admin concerns as well. So ये तीनों जो areas हैं, ये बहुत clearly defined होने चाहिए for a parent. For academic issues, this is what they have to refer to. For admin issues, this is the place they have to refer to. And to be involved in the learning journey of the child, this is the platform. For example, for the learning journey of the child, we have a platform called Class Dojo, in which we post all of the activities that the child is involved in that particular day, so the parents get to know what's happening. And then we have an event called an exit point. It's a celebration of learning.
No, but do you have a PTA in your school?
We don't have a
But why? And you're not the only school. मुझे नहीं लगता लाहौर में कोई भी school है. Why are parents not welcomed in taking a great? ये तो आप बात कर रहे हो ना parents' role in one child's journey. I'm talking about parents' role in the entire running of the school, which is what the PTA does.
Yeah, so it really depends on the context that you're talking about, right? So in our particular context, we're a small school, like a relatively small school. So in our case, the parents do have the liberty
to just
walk in and have a conversation with us directly, and we do cater to all of their concerns directly as well. When you're looking at a school of say 1,000 or 1,500, 2,000 students, you definitely need to have a parent body, because you can't really
with representatives.
With representatives in a proper decorum and like a proper
but वो नहीं
system.
है,
But वो नहीं
भी
है,
नहीं।
100% होना चाहिए.
Why are schools afraid of parental involvement?
Lack of awareness, if I may say, because like the parent feedback is
Or insecurities?
And perhaps because they would have to sort of they believe that they have to give an answer for the things that are happening, right? And it becomes a very like a us against them sort of a situation. So the parents are sort of trying to avoid that. The administration is trying to avoid that it becomes a us against them situation. But then again, I think it is really the responsibility of the administration to understand the concerns of the parents. If they can do it on a one-on-one individual basis where the parents do have access, preferably that should be the case. If the size is bigger, they should have a proper meeting and a proper body as well. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, we're almost running out of time. So my last question is that, you deal with students. Now you're dealing with slightly older students, like teenagers. Do you have teenagers now?
We
Or
have
preteens.
Preteens as well, yeah.
Yeah, and then soon you're going to teenagers. What do you think is essential to a child having a successful school career? Because I think at the end of the day, like that's what every parents want, right? Like you want their child to be successful in school. And I think teachers also want that. And the school generally wants कि भाई this child should have a successful school career. What what determines that this child would have a successful school career and this wouldn't?
The two things that I've talked about earlier as well. The first is confidence. They need to be skilled at that particular subject or that particular activity that they're involved in. That requires a lot of hard work. So there needs to be a discipline, which is very important. Because, yet again, competence inspires confidence.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The second is self esteem. They really need to have the right mindset. They need to have the right attitude. They need to solve their own problems. Because the purpose of a school is to prepare you for life,
Yeah.
right? So it needs to be very closely related to what the children are going to face in life, right? So this is what the children are going to face. They'll have to solve their own problems. This is what adulting is about, I believe, right? So they need to be responsible for their actions. They need to have the right mindset where they tell themselves that, oh, we're powerful, we can do this, right? And they need to come out of their comfort zones, put themselves in challenging situations where, they're being tested. And most importantly, they need to learn how to lose gracefully. And whenever they succeed, whenever they win, how to win passionately as well.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Great. Well, thank you so much, Kamil. It was great to have you over. And I know it's difficult in Ramzan to talk for an
Yeah.
hour, but thank you. Thank you for being there. And to everybody who's watching, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And definitely send us your questions and feedback. Thank you.